Good morrow everybody, your resident nerd, Laura, is back. So today I'm going to take a little bit of a detour on the cartoon highway, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Ducktales. Now, the thing is, I just really love Ducktales. I've always loved Ducktales. When I was a kid, the original series of Ducktales and Darkwing Duck and Treasure of the Lost Lamp, the movie, I used to love all of it, every single bit of it. And then obviously 2017 turns up and the reboot starts. And it was everything I ever wanted it to be. It is one of my favourite cartoons. I am absolutely in love with it. And as you guys may or may not be aware, season 3 had a bit of a break. So after the episode Rumble for Ragnarok, the show had a bit of a break, mainly due to COVID reasons. But also the producers and directors did say that they were planning on having a little bit of a break in between. Obviously the break was longer than intended, but now it's back on. And things are really starting to kick off. And I am worried for absolutely everybody. And I'm also suspicious of everybody as well. I don't trust anyone. So today, I'm going to talk to you guys about what is going on in Ducktales. My theories. Obviously, I have nothing to do with the show. I am just a mere fan. So these are all headcanons and just little theories that I've come up with. I could talk about this forever, but yeah, it'll take me a while to edit that, and I'm not about that life. Let us begin. So, season 3. It has been a rollercoaster so far. We've got the main sort of plot line of season 3, which is the fact that the McDuck clan have found Isabella Finch's journal, and they're using this journal to now find the hidden artifacts that Isabella never found, and to them, as adventurers, that is like the most epic quest ever. But then you've got the whole situation with Fowl, which in itself is probably the main plot line now that I think about it. They were very ominous and like underlying at first, you know, they had episodes where some of the characters within Fowl would turn up, you know, like Steelbeat, Gandra D, and the Block, characters like that. And then all of a sudden, in Let's Get Dangerous and Escape from the Imposter Bin, it all sort of kicked off, and now Scrooge knows that Fowl is a thing and they're out to get him. It's all going crazy. Even though the new episodes are spitting themselves out at a constant rate now, we still don't know why or what Fowl are planning. We know for a fact they want to do something to Scrooge and the family and the kids, and that stresses me out so much. But we know from the episode Let's Get Dangerous that Bradford never wanted world domination. We know that Taurus Bulba created this ramrod, which is the interdimension machine, thanks to the Solago circuit plans that were found in Isabella Finch's journal. All very complicated, but the power clearly went to Bulba's head, and then he was set on destroying that universe that he was in. And Bradford kicks off, he's like, what are you doing? This is not what we had planned. We needed the machine for something else, but not for world domination. So why on earth do Fowl need a machine to go to alternate dimensions when their ultimate plan isn't to destroy the world? And then, as we saw from the end of Escape from the Imposter Bin, each member of Fowl was deployed to a different place in the world where the hidden artifacts were that were in Finch's journal. So one of them stole the Fountain of Youth, one of them stole the Harp of Mavana, one of them stole the Solago circuit plans, and they were after that Sword of Swastantine. So they obviously need these artifacts for something, but I still don't know what it's for. And something that really intrigued me at the end of the split Sword of Swastantine was the fact that it was all just a distraction, and all they wanted was a feather. But whose feather was it? This is the thing, we don't know whose feather it was because it was just a white feather, so we know for a fact that it's not going to be Violet's. Obviously the first thing that had come to mind is that it's going to be Scrooge's feather, which would make complete sense. But we don't know, it might be Huey's, it might be Dewey's, Louie's, it might have been Webby's or Lena's, who knows? So they need an interdimensional machine, McDuck DNA, a harp that only ever tells you the truth, a Fountain of Youth, Solago circuit plans, and a sword, and obviously a whole bunch more things that are in Finch's journal. What connects all of these things? I need to know. But yeah, that's where we're at Fowl-wise. We still don't know completely what they're planning, but they're definitely planning something. So now for the theories. For my first theory, I actually need to take you guys back to season 1 to the episode The Spear of Selene. There is an amazing moment between Dewey and Webby when they're fighting over whether to go into the chamber or not. Dewey doesn't want to go in, but Webby does because they've worked so hard trying to find out who Della was and why she betrayed Scrooge and Donald and where she is she dead or alive, etc. And there's this great moment where Webby finally pins him down and says, we're so close to the truth, why won't you let us find it? And then Dewey's confident facade just completely drops and he says, what if my mom was a bad person? And he's gutted that he's had to admit that to himself because he's scared that Della was actually going to be a bad person and that she genuinely betrayed them because she was part of some horrendous scheme. And when I watch it back, it hurts my soul. I mean, just look at how quickly Webby retracts herself from that situation. She's not going to interrogate him any further, give him some like bullshit excuse or overly confident speech. She just says, okay, maybe this is one mystery that we don't have to solve, and then she walks away. Like, that's all she needs from him. And I can't help but think that Webby must have had the same thoughts about her parents in the past, because we know nothing about them. All we know is she was brought up by Beakley, her granny, in the mansion. That's it. Did she ever know her parents? Are they dead or alive? Were they good or bad people? We don't know. But you know, it just makes me think, because that scene really hits different for some reason. It's just her reaction to Dewey saying that, and she must have thought, huh, yeah, I've been there. It's fine, we don't have to go ahead if you don't want to. Which leads me quite nicely into where my theory's going. Everything sort of started to kick off really quite badly in Escape from the Impossible, and I think you all know which bit I'm going to refer to here. So, the sort of subplot of that episode is the fact that Beakley is training the kids intensely for some surprise attack from Fowl, because they know Fowl's a thing now, they've got to be prepared to fight. And you know, yeah, valid, but fighting and training like that is the only thing that Beakley really knows how to do to defend herself. Because you know, she's 22, she's worked for Shush, she's literally a secret agent, and she pushes the kids, pushes and pushes and pushes them, Webby especially, to the point where Huey has this horrendous moment where he just doesn't trust anyone and he's anxious beyond belief, and I felt like crying when I watched it. He just deserves the world, that boy, and I want to keep him safe, and I felt so sad. But Webby looks at him and he looks back at her in a completely different way, because he doesn't trust her anymore. And that really breaks Webby's heart, to the point where she stands up against Beakley and says, no, Granny, it doesn't feel right, and then they have a little bit of a battle themselves. And then there's this moment on the roof where Donald turns up and sort of tries to defuse the situation, and Beakley says something that really sticks with me. She says, she's my granddaughter, I'll determine what's best for her. And then she starts getting really emotional and upset, and she cries, and she says, we must be ready to fight. And she is willing at that point to push her granddaughter to such extremes, so she knows within herself that she's going to be safe. And it makes me think, what if Beakley is shrouded with all of this guilt because of Webby's parents? What if Webby's parents were killed by Fowl? What if she never trained Webby's parents in the way that she trained Webby? Maybe that's why from such a young age Beakley trained Webby like she did, you know, in combat, and to know all of this stuff, like how to read hieroglyphics and like ninja stars and all this kind of stuff. And now that she knows that Fowl's back, maybe she just completely panics and thinks the only way that I can save them is to train them all like I was. And the reason she feels like she needs to do that is because perhaps she didn't train Webby's parents, which is why they were either captured or killed, or maybe corrupted. Maybe they became members of Fowl. And that's what makes me think about why Webby might think her parents were bad people, and that whole moment in the Spear of Selene. You know how it sort of ties in?
Connected the two dots.
You didn't connect shit, but
I've connected them.
My mind like explodes with these theories. It's just, But then the thing is, I also have another theory about Beakley. Another theory as to why she's trained the kids to such drastic extremes. I hope it's not true, but I've got a really strange inkling that it might be. I think that Beakley's sus, like really sus. I love Beakley. She was always one of my favourite characters growing up, and to know in the 2017 version of the show that she's this badass agent with this crazy past of being 22 and working for Shush, you know, she's just awesome. She's always been a really cool character, and I'm just worried that she's a part of Fowl. I'm really worried. Again, the Impossible shows us so much stuff. There's like so much to unpack within that one episode. At the very start of the episode, Beakley's in the mansion with Webby, Huey, Dewey, and Donald, and they're preparing for a surprise attack from somewhere. And that's where the intense training begins. And she's got this chart with a list of potential suspects on it. And obviously for like comedic purposes, you had Uncle Donald, you had Louie, you had Fenton as well, Lil Bulb, and one of the Beagle Boys, I think. And you know, she makes this massive deal that there might be a traitor among them. I've never even played Among Us and I know all the lingo. This is all TikTok's fault. But yeah, she made this big deal that there might be a traitor. And then she goes ahead with this massive training regimen. And also, Escape from the Impossible is the first episode that Beakley was in for a while. We didn't see Beakley in any of the other episodes after the lost harp of Mavana. And even if we did, she didn't have big parts as far as I'm aware. So she's just all of a sudden turned up in a really angsty episode, and I'm like, what's going on, Bentina? What's happening? And also in The Lost Harp of Mavana, there's a moment where the harp at the end of the episode, after Beakley says there's going to be no more secrets between us, you can hear the harp in the background going, she's fibbing, fibbing, fibbing.
I have no secrets from you from here on out.
And I'm like, wait, because obviously in that moment we're like, oh, that's funny. You know, she'll just have some like daft secret, but now that I'm thinking about it, what if you have a big secret, huh? And there's that moment on the roof as well, after Webby and Beakley have done fighting, she gets this alert on her phone, and I'm like, huh, it's in foul colours, as in black background, red writing, and it just says alert, and afterwards Beakley says, we need to get to the bin now. And in that moment I thought, oh, okay, so it's an alert from Scrooge maybe she's got an alert that something's happened to the system, because obviously Bradford had infiltrated the system. But when they actually got to the bin, I thought Beakley would just be running in blindly, being like, what's going on? Like, do you need our help? What happened here? But instead, when she runs in, the first thing she says is, haven't you checked your phone? Don't you know what's going on? So how would Beakley know that the Fountain of Youth was stolen, and the Harp of Mavana was stolen, and the Salego circuit plans? How would she know about that? The only reason we know about that is because everyone rang Scrooge at the end of the episode when the communications came back on and told him.
Some bruiser with a steel beak, didn't catch his name, stole the Salego circuit plans.
But Beakley somehow knew already. I'm like, what's going on, man? So, yeah. I don't know, I hope I'm wrong, but I've just got a really weird feeling that I'm not. And the whole intense training regime sort of makes sense to me as well, because it's like she's preparing Webby for the absolute worst, like even when they're fighting against each other, because she thinks maybe this might happen, I might actually have to fight my granddaughter. Oh, I don't know. Maybe she's setting Webby up so she knows for a fact that she's gonna be just as good as she is in the future, and she'll be able to sort of pass the torch to the next generation. I don't know, but something's going on, and I'm suspicious of Beakley. Like, highly suspicious. And my final thoughts of the day have to be about Isabella Finch's journal and how it sort of correlates with the Junior Woodchuck guidebook. I couldn't sleep at all last night because my mind was just running around with all of these daft theories, and I was like, wait a minute. So, as we've known from previous series, series 1 was all about Dewey and his sort of mission to figure out more about Della. The second series was more about Louis. It was very Louis-centric because you had the whole Louis Incorporated thing, the whole Glomtails incident, and also just Louis figuring out how he sort of fits into the adventuring group, which would leave season 3 to be more about Huey. Although there's not been an overt amount of Huey, in my opinion. He hasn't seemed to have had a linear plot line that's developed. He has had some really good episodes, like really important episodes like Astro Boyd and the very first episode of season 3 as well, but it's not been like hyper focused on him, which makes me worried. I think they're doing this on purpose because something is going to happen to Huey. I've just got a really horrible feeling that something's going to happen to him because they haven't given him, like I say, a plot line that's developed over the series. They've just sort of thrown him into random episodes here and there, really good episodes mind you, but he's not had that sort of continuation like Dewey had or that Louis had. And the episodes that he's been in as well have encompassed around a more main plot line. You know, like Astro Boyd, an amazing episode, one of my favourites I think I've ever seen. Even though Huey's in it and he's one of the main characters within it, there's another plot line going on alongside his character. You know, you're thinking more about Boyd himself and about Gyro. And in other episodes in season 3 as well, he's had amazing moments of like character development, but it's not been his episode. And I just think, what are you doing? I'm worried, you know? And even something really daft that I thought about in the trickening, the very end of the trickening, when the camera sort of zooms into the picture, it zooms in on Huey mainly. I'm like, what are y'all doing to me? I'm stressed. If they do anything to that boy, I'm gonna like actually throw hands. But my main sort of theory here is the fact that Isabella Finch's journal and the Junior Woodchuck guidebook seem to correlate very coincidentally with each other. As Huey said in Escape from the Imposter Bin,
The Junior Woodchuck guidebook has the answer to everything.
and that's what he's always said. He's always said that. He's referred to the book for absolutely everything, not just woodchuck related. He would literally look at that book for the best way to peel an apple or the most effective way to clean your teeth. Like, that's his specialist subject. Being a woodchuck and reading the book for absolutely any particular reason is his special interest, and he's never going to be without that book because he relies on it so much. And that's what the very first episode of season 3 was all about, him trying to learn how to cope without referring to the book. But then they find this journal. Isabella Finch was the very first woodchuck, so obviously a lot of stuff that's in that journal is going to be within the guidebook because she wrote both of them. But coincidentally, it seems to have the exact information for any specific moment. Like in Let's Get Dangerous, Huey found the Salego circuit plans way too easily. And I just think, what are they doing? Are they literally planting all of this stuff and like setting everything else up as a distraction, you know, stealing the Fountain of Youth and the harp, things like that to literally just get this DNA? Or what are they doing? But I'm just worried about Huey because I feel like something bad is gonna come of the JWG and the journal, and he's going to be absolutely devastated because, like I say, he relies on that book for absolutely everything. And people have said like the main theme of this series is destiny, and as we saw in the Split Sword of Swastian team, we saw that the triplets obviously had to go through their own sort of challenges, and Dewey's made a whole lot of sense, you know, his overly confident persona gets him literally everywhere, and Louis's destiny is like legend, you know, not him talking his way out of stuff but actually doing things and becoming a bit of a talking point himself. Whereas Huey's, I was like, what on earth is going on with this boy? Like, he's got this inner rage, like Donald Duck style rage, and that's the side of himself that he obviously doesn't want to show anybody else. And it upsets me a bit because Huey's very obviously on the autistic spectrum. Like, he represents it absolutely beautifully. He's basically Abed thrown into a cartoon world but make autism better. They've done it impeccably and I stan. But it makes me sad because obviously Huey feels like he can't let his rage out because that'll mean he's not perfect. And if the series is tied to destiny, what if Huey's destiny is the fact that he isn't perfect and he's gonna have to come to terms with the fact that that's okay? And that might mean him having to let go of the guidebook and Finch's journal, and like, what if it's all just corrupt, and what if something bad happens to him? Like, I am concerned. And one of the producers of the show as well is on Tumblr, and he answered an ask quite recently, and the ask was something along the lines of, can you give us an emotional line from season 3? And he answered with, take care of your brother. And I'm like, what? So I don't know. The first thing I obviously think of is Scrooge with Della, and I'm like, they can't touch Scrooge, but also, But then my mind leads me on to Huey and Dewey, as in like, what if Huey gets hurt, and then that's the line that Huey says to Dewey, as in like, look after your brother, sort of passing on the baton of the older brother to Dewey, and then Dewey panics and he's like, wait, I know I talk a good game about wanting to be the older brother, but also that's your job. And it's this whole thing about how the series is encompassed by destiny. Like, what is Huey's destiny? Like, is his destiny to not be perfect, to not try and be the older brother all the time, to not be responsible, or to just learn about letting go? Like, what is it? What is going on with this boy? Like, I need to know. I'm just worried. I'm worried. And my final thought about the 2 books is the fact that in The Impossible as well, Dewey says,
when was the last time a book solved a problem?
And I think that that might be a bit of a plan. And what I mean by a plan is the fact that sometimes producers, writers of a show will put in a random quote throughout a series for like comedic effect, just like a repetitive term that they say in like every other episode or something. Just something thrown into the script. And then at like the end of the series, or when there's like a big battle going on, they have like a flashback and they're like, wait, we've said that a lot of the time. What if that's the thing that we need to help us beat this bad guy? So what if that quote is the plan, which ends up meaning that the book is either going to help them or it is gonna do the complete opposite, or the books are more powerful together? What does it mean? So yeah, that's my thoughts. I could honestly go on about this for a hot minute longer, but yeah. I'm sure we'll figure out more soon. There are more episodes coming out in the coming weeks. I don't know how long it's gonna go on for. Titles wise, I know there's gonna be a Christmassy themed episode, which is gonna be hilarious, because you know, Scrooge and Christmas, Santa, it's gonna be a whole lot of stuff. But yeah, I hope we figure out Huey's destiny soon, and I just hope they're gonna keep him safe, I really do. I'm worried about him. I also may or may not have panic bought a Huey cosplay last night because I was actually so emotionally invested in him. I'm in my Daddy Pootie phase all over again, and I don't hate it. Troy and Narbed in the morning. Anywho guys, thank you so much for listening to my rambling. I will obviously update this video with more things in the coming weeks when I figure out more theories. But until then, I will see you all again soon with more Bentress content. Bye!